So welcome to our video. We wanted to put together a video in response to some questions about the talk I gave at the MFL Icons session last week. Lots of people wanted to see the text and we wanted to share the thinking behind them. The key message that we would like people to take away from this short video is that the texts in and of themselves are good, but they are not the answer to all MFL teaching problems. And obviously, there are many other ways to teach MFL, and all of those things are fine. The key message that we want people to take away is that the thinking that has gone into the text is the most important thing. So whatever you do, however you want to teach languages, be really clear on what the purpose of your department is, what goal you're trying to achieve, and then put everything in place to achieve that goal. Verity, maybe you want to start talking about the thinking that's gone into our texts.
Yes, definitely. So our journey was having some results which we wanted to improve to start with, and then the second year that we got results, we were much happier with those results, but we still felt like we were having to do a huge amount of catch up and gap filling work for particularly low prior retainers, and we were working in a context where we wanted to enter as many students as possible, and I think we both feel like there is a real moral imperative to making sure that as many students, if not 100% of students, have a right to access a foreign language GCSE, but that the current or the way that we were teaching it up to that point wasn't supporting those students to be successful. So as the title of the presentation is very clear there, do less, really important, comma, well, and that was all about reducing the amount of content that you give to students in Key Stage 3 or before in order to ensure they master it. But then if you are going to reduce that content, then you need to be really clear on what content you are going to give them. So there is a bit of a trade-off there, and we decided to plan backwards from A-level success and then GCSE success. What do you absolutely have to have in order to be successful? You need to have opinions, and you need to have 3 tenses, and you need to have a solid understanding of negatives, adjectival agreement, that kind of thing. So all of those structures we whittled down to a 25-line text, and that was where we started. So it's very much a case of backwards planning and reducing the amount of content that you put in.
Great. So I'm going to show you a Year 6 Spanish text. So we are an all-through school. The pupils begin formal language lessons with Spanish in Year 6, and they pick up French and Spanish in Year 7 and 8. They choose their language option at the end of Year 8. Some of them do dual. That gets rid of that slump in Year 9 that we're not very keen on. And then we have a healthy population of dual linguists as well, which we're really, really proud of. So this is the Year 6 Spanish text. So the key thing I think that we would like you to understand is how short and how kind of limited the content is that we expect pupils to learn. This would be the text for the entirety of the first cycle, which would take us from September until about Christmas time. So you can see the regular topics that you would expect any beginner in a language to learn are there. It's presented in a letter form. All of our texts are presented in letter form between 3 characters from the French and Spanish speaking world. Pedro is from Spain. Marta, the second cycle person, is from Colombia, and Joaquin is from Bolivia. And the reason that we present it as a letter like this first is because when we were designing the parallel text, we realized that if we only presented it as this, which is what it is also presented as, then the pupils didn't understand that it all kind of hung together as a narrative. And the other thing that we've changed enormously is the way we assess the pupils. So they have this, they learn this, they really, really learn this in terms of being able to pronounce it perfectly, in terms of being able to write it perfectly, accent, spelling, adjectival agreement, everything. You can also see that we have 3 tenses, as Verity talked about, in this text. we expose pupils to the tenses really, really early on. We expose them to really exciting language early on, but we don't dissect and analyze and actively teach a traditional verb paradigm until they're in year 9. And the reason that we made that decision is because we were finding pupils were really struggling with abstract ideas of tense and auxiliaries and conjugation, because they had no concrete meaning on which to hang that learning. So by the time we get to year 9, we're introducing verb paradigms, but they've got things like voy a hacer, odio ver, tengo los ojos azules. They have those great phrases on which to hang this new abstract learning. And it's much, much, much more memorable. And we're seeing really good progress there. So the document is presented like this. It's sort of like a booklet, but it's simply the text. And then it's broken down into individual lines. You can see it's introduced with Spanish, and then English raro, English correcto. And this is very much stolen from Barry Smith. The English raro is a really clear way to demonstrate the different syntax of Spanish and French. And it's funny and really memorable, and pupils really, really enjoy engaging with it. I think then I'm going to show you year 7 Spanish. I think the key thing to take away from year 7 Spanish, so 1 year later, is how much of what was in year 6 is repeated here. So it's recycled, it's extended slightly, but the same topics, the same dates and birthdays and family description, personal description, your appearance description, all of that stuff is there again. It's extended. And then we add in some new topics that they haven't seen. And again, it's still presented in letter form. He's writing to Marta this time. The key idea that we have throughout our department at every key stage is that fun in and of itself is not the aim. Pupils feel successful when they are successful, and they enjoy their learning when they are successful. So very much achievement is motivating, not motivation is achievement. You can see that the same phrases are recycled many, many times. And I think now probably you want to see a French text. Verity.
Yes, so looking at the year 8 French one then, so this would be the second year, you can see that it has all been recycled again. I think it's worth saying that the 3 characters, there's maybe a sort of dwindling of the students' belief in the fact that these are 3 real characters. They definitely believe you when you first tell them that Pierre has written them a letter, and then gradually they maybe start to question whether or not Pierre, Adama and Elodie are real people. But that's okay. They still go along with you, particularly in that key stage 3 time. And I think the links between the 3 characters are a little bit tenuous, but again, that's okay. They still buy in because they know the 3 characters. They all know Pierre's birthday, for example. And on the 23rd of May, they did say, "Oh, it's Pierre's birthday today." So I think it is the idea of a story and characters, which again, I think we were inspired by speaking to people at School 21 for. So the idea of character and narrative, that supports memory, and we know that that's backed up by research as well. So you can see then that in year 8, the first cycle in year 8 is again recycling everything they've learned in year 7, and the whole point of this is to support low priority retainers, as well as those students who are your high priority retainers, who are going to fly, quite frankly, no matter what you do. But your low priority retainers, this is going to support them because they are seeing real revision. They are doing real revision of phrases that they've already seen. Something else that we tried to include, and again stole this from Barry Smith, is the idea of language being a little bit silly and being able to be a little bit funny with language. So in year 7 cycle 2, the students learn somewhat inexplicably, Elodie ends up in Feltham, and she ends up talking about the teachers of Reach Academy Feltham, and the children inevitably love being able to say that their teachers are bald or their teachers are weird, and you can just kind of get up to that line of being a bit silly, a bit cheeky. I think we also taught them Je pète la forme, which translates as I fart the hell. So absolutely ideal if you are a 12-year-old and want to have a look at the Anglais Bizarre for that. So you can see as well then that there are some phrases that are emboldened, and that those are the 9 for 9 phrases. We coined this term of 9 for 9. So you have 9 phrases in each text that you could potentially expect to see in a grade 9 text in a few years' time. So 9 for 9 is just a little way of characterizing those phrases, things like je viens de, and then the exclamations like quelle chance and j'ai honte. So those 9 for 9 phrases are embedded. And then I guess if we have a look at the text, the separated out text here, you can see that with this text, what we would do is the Cuddles process, as made famous by Jess Lund. You can go and have a look, and also Barry Smith, go and have a look at their stuff on Michaela's website. You can see how they mark the text so that students know how to pronounce it. And then the focus on the pronunciation of being able to read the text accurately with a good accent is because then not only does their pronunciation improve, obviously, they sound French, that's really motivating, but also their sound spelling relationships are excellent. And then the payoff for that is that when they listen to the language, they can see in their mind's eye what it would look like written down. And we know that when they can see what it would look like, they're much more likely to understand it. So it does demystify a little bit of the listening exam as well, when you really focus on that pronunciation. I think some people have felt like going through the Cuddles process, particularly early on, could maybe lack pace. But again, it's like any kind of routine. Once you have really embedded it, then it gets faster, they become more successful at it. And I would very rarely, when I was using this method, have pupils in year 8 or year 9, for example, who would pronounce the S at the end of a word, and they would know that an accent aigu meant an E sound, and you just kind of minimize some of those common faults that we see as language teachers. I think it's also worth saying at this point that it's not that we are anti-textbook or that we completely did away with textbooks. I think textbooks have got a lot to offer. I think we just felt like it wasn't fair on low priority attaining students who weren't able to hold all of the information lesson by lesson that a textbook had. And actually this was something concrete that they could come back to and they could hang all of that knowledge on. But you can also still do your listening activities from the textbook, or you could do trapdoor and sentence builder activities where you do incorporate that other vocabulary, because you will have lots of pupils who are sponges for all of those words. And if we think about the 2,500 items of vocabulary that students are supposed to learn by the end of GCSE, then we know that that they are going to pick those words up, or they are going to come across those words. But this is really something that supports those low priority attainers, and they have definitely mastered the 500 words or whatever it is that's in the text. So that's kind of covered all of those parts for year 8. But if we have a look then at how it progresses into year 10, so this is where it gets obviously more of a nod to the GCSE requirements. So we've got here the fact that the text is then laid out as if it's one of the 150 word texts, still in letter form or in blog form, because we know that that's what the children need to produce themselves. So we try and give them lots of phrases that suit those formats. So you've got il faut qu'on y réfléchisse, and then you've got en guise de conclusion. These, by the way, end up being incredibly useful phrases if pupils know and want to go on and do A-level. I think it's really useful to see in here, you've still got quand j'étais plus jeune, you've still got quelle joie, you've still got je viens de, and these are now phrases that pupils have seen right from the beginning. So hopefully those are becoming embedded by this point. And then you are getting all students, not just your high priority attainers, but all students able to use some of these high level phrases as well. And as Hannah said, the grammatical understanding behind those phrases comes later, but at first you're just teaching them the chunks, the kind of lexicogrammar approach of just teaching them chunks and then putting it in different contexts. So this is the one of the year 10 texts. Obviously it's on the topic of festivals, but you can make the text obviously on whatever topic you are, whatever you are studying, and you will be revisiting that vocabulary that you have already used before.
Great.
Do we want to have a look at the Anglais Bizarre version of that as well?
Sorry.
So by this point, it is getting a little bit chunkier, and that obviously does present more challenges, but it is the same format as before, and pupils have got a real understanding by this point of what is expected of them. They are expected to memorize this. This is backed up and supported by regular retrieval quizzing and practicing. Might be on many whiteboards, it might be as a vocab test, however that happens.
Okay, so obviously this is just a short introduction. If you have any questions, please reach out to us on Twitter. I'll just go back so you can see our Twitter handles. We're really happy to talk to people about it, but the key thing we want you to take away is that you can achieve exceptional progress for your pupils by doing less, well. And as long as you're putting lots and lots of thinking into what your ultimate goal is and how you get there, then anyone can be really successful in language teaching. Thanks. Bye.